No, you can find relatively good Ayurvedic diet. See, Ayurveda, as I said, the real meaning is how to liberate yourself from this temporary body. Liberate your soul and go back and live in your eternal abode, you know, with God and with all your friends. Sometimes people say, oh, I'd be bored, you know, what do we do there all the time? Well, I'll give you a hint. Let's say you're having a Christmas dinner and all your family members are there, people that you love very much, and you're having a good time, and time is going by, you know they're going to have to leave soon. What would you be thinking in your mind?
Give everybody a hug and wish them a safe journey back wherever they're going.
But would you want to, on the other hand, wouldn't your heart be yearning, oh, I wish this would last
Forever.
I wish it would go on, because I love Aunt Sadie, but she's a little crazy. I love I love Junior, even though he's become a punk, but I still love him. So, you'd want it to last, right? Or your yearning is, I wish it would last, because when they go, I might not see them again for like 5 or 10 years, and who knows if they're going to live, or who knows how I'm going to live. So you want it to last, right? You love these people, and you feel good, you feel comfortable with them. That's what the spiritual world is. The only difference is nothing diminishes there, it gets better. Aunt Sadie gets crazier. And the Punky Junior becomes more of a punk, but you love them. The more they are, the more you love them. See, everything gets better. Time in this world is our enemy. Time in the spiritual world supports everything. You perceive time here by its passage. In the spiritual world, you perceive it by its non-passage. So, what you actually are yearning for here, I mean, would you say in your heart you yearn to always be young and beautiful and healthy and happy and full of love?
Yeah.
Right? And have affectionate friends and everything just be ideal, and get your stimulus check every month. Right? So, that's the spiritual world. Your yearning is a hint that actually exists. You yearn for it. And it's possible. So, Ayurveda wants you to access that. And it's easier, in other words, following the rules are easier than breaking them. Following the rules are easier than breaking them. So you follow these Ayurvedic principles, you'll definitely be happy, you'll make others happy. When you see them eating that chicken leg and then getting a roast beef and eating denatured mashed potatoes that they got in the frozen food section at QFC, and pouring on some nasty gravy on top of it. It's all denatured, and then drinking coffee and eating a lemon meringue pie and then getting the Pepto-Bismol. You really, you say, look, why don't you just eat some of my sprouts? And I got some tofu here, and we can have some yogurt and nice cooked vegetables. I got some Indian spices to put in there, some turmeric and ginger to give it a really nice taste. See, you know, because you know how good you feel, how much energy you have. And they say, gee, you I haven't seen you for 5 years. You look just the same now that you did before. And they look like they're 90 years old. You look like you're still 25 years old, 30 years old. Why? Because you've been following the principles of nature, the rules of nature according to the way God gave it. So there's a proverb that says, whoever made the door and the lock also made the key. So spiritual knowledge, or knowledge of eternity, is descending, and material knowledge is trying to ascend. So if you stop the ascending process and accept the descending process, then even though we're imperfect, even though we're limited, we can get perfect knowledge. But if we just insist on the ascending process, then our own limitations will limit us, and we'll never arrive at perfect knowledge. So if your mom says to you when you're 3 years old, this is a cell phone, and she says, repeat, and you say, this is a cell phone. Right? Then you go to kindergarten class, and the teacher says, today we're going to learn about this. Who knows what this is? You raise your hand and say, it's a cell phone. And she said, well, how do you know it? My mommy told me. Your mommy's a good teacher. Now, you didn't study cell phone. You don't know what it is. You simply repeated what your mom said, and your teacher said you have perfect knowledge. That's called descending knowledge. Ascending knowledge, it's like reinventing the wheel. You could spend hundreds and thousands of years trying to figure out what this thing is, or study books and still not understand it. But if you accept knowledge from a perfect source, it's descending, immediately you can have perfect knowledge, even though you're imperfect and limited. So, therefore, we should orient ourselves toward what is a real value, that is something that has no cessation, it cannot be destroyed. That's your soul and your relationship with God and your relationship with other people who also have that same eternal soul as you do, as long as people act on that level. Yes, any other questions?
I think before we move on to questions, we can have both the speakers up,
Yeah.
and then we can have questions together.
Sure.
Yeah, so let's first thank Harvilas ji for a great talk. If you have any specific questions which you want response from Yashwant ji, you can still ask. Looks like I interrupted the flow of questions.
I will just share a small, very interesting thing. In America, till early 90s, the Chinese yeast rice used to be readily available. And suddenly the Chinese yeast rice was, the import was prohibited. And then now recently they again started. The reason was what our speaker was saying. The reason was that Merck found out that the Lipitor's, the statins were coming from Chinese yeast rice, and Chinese used to use that yeast rice regularly in their diet, so they never used to have high cholesterol. So as soon as Merck found out, then Merck talked to the FDA that if they eat Chinese yeast rice abnormally, sometimes they eat this much, sometimes there will be no dose control on it. So we must stop the import of that. And that's how the multinationals played with this, and now the Lipitor should be banned very as soon as possible, because they are finding out that people who are taking Lipitor, they reduce the cholesterol but they lose their muscles. So you take care of something. So I normally, when I teach pharmacy, I tell them that you can be very beautiful with the silicone breast implant, but then in due course of time you have breast cancer also. So you have a choice to look better or have breast cancer. So that was a very simple, but in, most of this, what he was talking about, the relation nexus between the FDA and all these industries and nutraceuticals on the other countries, very interesting to study. Sab thak gaye hai. Everybody is tired, it was a long talk.
Can you tell me something more about the blood pH balance? Like,
Yes.
how would you figure out whether you are in good health as far as blood is concerned?
You know you're in good health, and you know when you're in bad health, right? Because your concentration is not so good. You get tired during the day. You feel like sleeping during the day. That's a symptom of bad health. You have difficulty digesting. Sometimes you have acidity.